Hi, and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to another episode of 9 to 42. This is the podcast brought to you by the guys behind the Guitar Show UK. I'm sat looking at my good friend Jason Hunt on screen. How are you, Jace?
I'm all right, Anne. How are you?
I'm really well, apart from being a Sheffield United fan who was robbed of a goal last night by the first time in however many games that goal line technology didn't work.
9,000, I believe they said on the radio this morning.
9,000 games that goal line technology hasn't worked, and of course it doesn't work for the first time on a Sheffield United game. So apart from that, which I'm not stewing on, but I keep having flashbacks to, I'm absolutely fine. Though a little bit hacked off with the weather because it's absolutely throwing it down here.
Oh yeah,
how are you?
Yeah. Yesterday, because of the throwing it down, these are the joys of working from home. I was on my hands and knees at lunchtime, taking about. Actually, went up to my t-shirt sleeve. So what's that? About 18 inches worth of soil and stones out of one of my drains.
Ooh! Now you see, this is a question: is that worse than being denied a goal by goal line technology?
I felt pretty grimy afterwards, I've got to say.
You might have just... Do you know what? Actually, I would say you've got that one, except I've now remembered that you got the pick of the left panners, didn't you? So because you know you got the right AC/DC and the right stone, then I think as your Malcolm and as your Mick Taylor, then I think on this one I've got to trump you.
No, I do. I feel your pain. I mean, you know, that unfortunately or fortunately, it depends on how you look at it. I support West Brom, so you know, goal line technology and VAR doesn't really affect me in the slightest.
It will do next year.
Well,
in fact, that's a thing we can look forward to. We can look forward to going to match together next year.
Oh, we could, yeah. We could do both of them. Home and away.
I thought about that. Home and away. Well, it's funny because a guy called Guy, so Guy Jones, who's a songwriter and he writes for movies and does lots.
Is that
of
Robbie
lots
Williams'
of stuff.
guy?
No, a different one. I don't think it is. He never mentioned it. I'm sure he would have mentioned it if it was the Robbie Williams one. So Guy, who lives fairly close to you, is also a West Brom fan, and he came to a United game with me when we were both in the Championship last year. So you know, I'll have to introduce you to Guy, and we can do the whole three-way. That sounds wrong.
There's not many people who come from West Brom. Me, Guy, and Phil Linnett.
There you have it. Incidentally, Thin Lizzy came up on the list of. It was classic rock or prog rock. I think it was classic rock. Did a list this week of 10 bands whose best album was a live album.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I completely agree.
They came up on that. Yes, along with Peter Frampton was on there, wasn't he?
Yeah, Kiss were on there as well.
Yeah. So yes. So
it's the only Thin Lizzy album I've got.
That's actually, to be fair, I think it might be the only one I've got as well. Actually. But anyway, we digress, which we're very good at. This week we are talking to Adrian Thorpe.
ThorpyFX.
And we had it's a while now since we had a chat with him, isn't it? I'm trying to think how far back it is.
We probably recorded this about 5 weeks ago, but it was in that. It was the end of that mad couple of weeks we had where we were interviewing someone every day because we could.
Yeah, we were like professional podcasters for long enough to make it feel like it was real.
Yeah, I did. And then I got into end of year marking, which has destroyed the last month of my life, really.
Yeah, because we've not spoken a lot, really, apart from doing these little top and tail recordings that we do for the podcast. We've not had not nattered like we normally natter.
I have literally I've either been marking or second marking Checking my tutor's marking. And I love teaching. I absolutely love being in the classroom. I hate marking. But I don't think you'll find a single lecturer that does enjoy it.
I don't think you'll find a teacher that does. If I'm coming from a family where I'm the black sheep and I'm the only one that's not in education, I don't think you'll find a teacher that likes marking.
I mean, last Friday, there'd been a communication error, and I got a message that said, could I step in and do some second marking? I was like, yeah, okay, what do you need me to read? It was 21,000 words. I was like, how long have I got? And they've got about 3 hours. Right, okay. Coffee.
You see, unless that
snacks.
had been written by Nick Hornby, I won't be interested.
And the problem is that I'm reading basically, it's multiple students' essays. So it's like reading the first chapter of a book written 15 different ways. So, yeah, it's the same story over and over again.
Well, I feel your pain with that one, and we won't dwell.
No, let's go on to Adrian, because he's far more interesting than we are.
Well, he is, and we are banging on a little bit. We've indulged ourselves in some chat which we've been trying to not to do. So anyway, so Adrian, how long have you known Adrian then?
5 years, maybe. I don't suppose he's been going much longer than that.
No,
I mean, I think he says in the podcast, it was part of his plan to do the guitar show. Obviously, I didn't know this, but he didn't think he'd be able to afford it. And one of the things that I like to think that I do is that I've got a very cost-effective route to market. It's nowhere near. I mean, if I'm 50% cheaper than what I was charging at the NEC a decade ago, so it's relatively affordable. And I bought in a payment plan for smaller builders. I can, for instance, like Lee at Laney, he's like, oh, don't send me the payment plan, just send me the bill, and I'll pay it all in one go, because Laney, Ibanez, Tarma, they can afford to do that. Whereas there's the much smaller builders, which I think is the exciting part of the show. You can go into any PMT, Fair Deal, Guitar, whatever, and see Fender, Laney, Ibanez, whatever. It's the small builders that make the show the show. And it was like, well, how do I get them in when their cash flow is much smaller? And it's like, well, if their stand costs, I don't know, 500 quid, I'm quite happy to take it in payments up to that, so they can afford to pay me 100 quid a month or whatever it may be, just because it benefits the show. And the big boys, when they pay, that's my cash flow, if you like. And that's what Adrian says in the interview, really, that he really appreciated that, but it was a deliberate plan from the start.
Well, let's roll it. And because it was a really nice chat, and he's a very engaging and funny fella, so we'll roll that, and we'll have a little regroup at the end, if you like.
Okay, see you in a bit.
So welcome to another edition of 942. We're still in lockdown mode. I'm still looking at a screen with faces on it, and recording these things remotely. Jace is in the room. Say hello, Jace.
Hiya.
And I'm very pleased that we've got Adrian Thorpe of ThorpyFX. So good evening, Adrian, and welcome.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Really, really well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks.
I guess the first question probably worth asking, bearing in mind we are still in a weird kind of state, and you've got everything going on with your business. How is the business? How's everything gone through this period for you?
Yeah, really well. I say surprisingly. I mean, we make a hand-built product in the UK. I think we've had logistical issues, which is a bit boring, like getting stuff.
Yeah,
it takes a little bit longer. But just prior to all this kicking off, fortuitously, we had a load of stock and parts arrive, and we buy in big bulk to sort of save money, and so that's been less of an issue for us than it could have been. And Yeah, we launched 2 new pedals at NAMM,
right?
And we're just trying to fulfill those orders and the back orders that we've got and all the rest of it. So yeah, we've been building like 10 men really, even though we're down to 2 men.
And yeah. And just for my understanding, is that stuff you're selling directly, or is that going through retailers? How do you operate?
We've got a mixed bag. We've got a lot of really awesome retailers around the world, and if customer doesn't have a retailer in their area or prefers to buy direct, they can do, but it's not something we push. So yeah, we do a mix of both really.
Right. Okay. And are most of your retailers still up and running?
No, some of them have closed for the time being. A lot of the bigger ones are still managing to stay open, and that's fantastic. A lot of the smaller ones have just changed their business model and moved from bricks and mortar through to online only. So I think everyone's trying to succeed in a tricky environment. But let's be honest. There's a lot of people at home. There's a lot of people bored, and a little bit of respite by making some absolutely god awful noise is good for everyone's soul.
Well, I could probably buy 2 or 3 pedals with the money I've saved on petrol, because I haven't filled my car up in 2 months.
So where's your order? What the hell?
Yeah, you've not heard me play, have you? Yeah.
I'm only joking.
No, you're fine. No, it's a fair point. So I'm the one that's new to this circle, because you two have known each other for a while. So I'll get the obvious questions out the way of things that I don't know. Talk us through the background, because how did this start? What drove you to do what you do?
Yeah. So I've been making effects pedals for absolutely donkey's years, but initially I started as a hobby to sort of fill time that I had on my hands. I just commissioned into the army. I was a young second lieutenant, and this was just a way of, I could go to the gym in the evening, I could go to the bar in the evening, or I needed another hobby. And so this became the other hobby. Because, there's only so much booze you can drink, and I'm a proper lightweight. Even though I'm a 20-stone bloke, I just can't drink for toffee, It's really, really bad. So this hobby was better for my health, and I just started building pedals. So I was, first one I built was a Rangemaster. It sucked because it didn't work, but I got it working, and then after that point I was hooked. So do a lot of fast forwarding, and I end up, I meet my now wife, and so this is just over 5 years ago now. We just got married, and we're like, oh, what are we going to do now? And my wife's like, well, you really ought to do the thing you've always wanted to do, which is, start your own company. So that's what happened. And with a little bit of help and advice from some close mates, we launched ThorpyFX, and that's where we are now. So I've gone from being a bomb disposal officer in the army to being an effects manufacturer in Civilian Street, and 2 totally different careers on totally different paths, and I love both of them. So proud to be doing what I'm doing.
I was saying to Ant about the sort of like, a controversy is probably too strong a word, but the sort of like at the very start, you launched a pedal that you still do, but you've had to change the name. But you were saying that it kind of got you started, really.
Yeah. So I mean, it's no secret now, and it's a bit of a strange. It really was a bit of a strange one. So the first pedals we launched were the Gunshot. Then it was the Peacekeeper, I think, and the Muffroom Cloud. And it was the Muffroom Cloud that we started to get some traction in the USA. So we started to send our pedals for review with Premier Guitar, which is one of the biggest magazines in the in the world, in the US. Online presence is huge. So we sent one off. It blew them away. They called it the Rolls Royce of Big Muffs, and literally within, it was 11 hours, I counted. I've got a cease and desist in my email. I'm like, that's interesting. So there's a saying in the military that you can lose the battle but win the war. Okay, now I couldn't afford to fight EHX. I couldn't afford to fight EHX in the UK. I certainly couldn't afford to fight them in the USA. And to be honest with you, if we had the money, we would have won. Because it's absolutely ludicrous that you can, a made-up word that I made up, which has obviously a passing resemblance to a phrase that they have, that they've trademarked. Well, it just wouldn't have stood up in court. But fighting it essentially would have taken me away from what I ought to be doing, which is designing a new product, pushing the company forward, and just going for it. So we made the decision there and then just to change the name. Now, the thing is, people noticed that stuff. We had quite a following at that point already, and people were like, why have you changed the name? I was like, well, we got a cease and desist from a well-known American company that are rather large. And we had people buying the product just to stick two fingers up to the people who are trying to bully us. And like, well, thanks. I really appreciate it. Because the product's the same, the name's changed, that's all. We've sold thousands of them, so, I'm really grateful for it.
Do you think in a roundabout way then, actually, that helped? Because, it's that no such thing as a bad story thing, and there'll have been a dollop of publicity. Then you'll have had a little bit, I guess, of your customers almost, like you say, sticking two fingers up, sticking up for the little guy, and suddenly that gets you a load of loyal customers quite quickly on something that, like you say, is really innocuous, really. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, don't get me wrong, the product's great, and I'm really proud of what we've done. But the reality is, if people are going to buy it, they need to have heard it, or heard of it. That's the continual battle with all business. People won't buy if they don't know you exist. Now, having a massive company who didn't need to do that but decided they would put us on the map by going, ta-da, here you go. Guess what? All that happens is you just end up in the limelight for a very brief period. But the thing is, we sold a load off the back of it. We sold all the ones that we needed to clear with the old name. And for a lot of people, that was their first pedal from us. And great, because we've had loyal customers. Since then, before then, whatever. But yeah, absolutely, really, really awesome. And nice that people felt inclined to support us then, and it's really nice they feel inclined to support us still now. It's amazing.
Obviously, you two got to know each other, and you supported the show. I mean, how long ago was that? How long have you two known each other?
I think 5 years. 4 or 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah, something like
Jason's been stealing money from me for that long, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah. Never lets me forget.
He did that when I was at Shore. He did that with me for about a decade. So it's fine. It's fine.
Well, I'm going to blow smoke up Jason's arse here, because we're really lucky in that actually Jason's he's got a really nice moral compass with regards to small business, and so we made the decision to exhibit at his show, and he has a number of mechanisms in place which help smaller builders and smaller companies like myself actually make that leap, because it's a big leap when you could spend money on one thing or another, and we knew we were always going to be exhibiting there, and it was just it gave us that, well, we've got no reason not to do it, and we really appreciate it, and it's rare in this world. I know of another big show in the world that doesn't do anything like that. Yeah. Not at all.
Yeah, they don't take you for a curry either, do they?
No, they don't. It's a good bloody curry as well.
Do you know what? And this is probably the only time on any of these episodes I will do the same thing and agree with you. But to be fair, I exhibited a number of times as Shaw, and it was a tenuous link at best, and would do it every single time because I've always felt the event was great, and the atmosphere of the event and the community feel of the event is like very few events that I've been to, and I've been going to events for 20 years.
It was even better this year. It was it seemed to make a quantum leap this year. It was wicked.
I don't know. I just got locked in a cloakroom for most of it. I didn't see much of it.
Ball gag?
Yeah. No. I was sent off to interview people for the podcast, and he'd literally put me in a shithole of a room. It was just absolute. It's cat litter tray.
But you're in Birmingham.
Well,
you're in a shithole of a room. You've literally described everything.
Yeah. I don't know who we're gonna have to apologise to after this one, but
I love Birmingham. I'm only joking.
It was. Which is funny actually, because one of the people I did interview was Mikey Demas while I was there, and obviously there's a tie-in with you there, isn't there?
There is, yeah, and I guess in the same way that you've got a tenuous link yourself. Mikey, we met at actually another guitar show. So
there aren't any others,
but yeah. So Mikey's a Manson's artist. So he has a signature Manson guitar. He's also an orange amplifier artist and uses the Rockefeller 100. And so we got invited to go to a Manson's guitar show in Exeter, which it's not on all the time. It's not.
It's every other year, I think it is.
Yeah, it certainly was. Anyway, the guys at Orange I'm friends with, and they brought Mikey over and said, "Hey, try these pedals. You'll dig them." To be honest with you, we got chatting to Mikey, and I think this is always the way. You sort of hit it off because he's got a young daughter, so have we, and we just talked crap about our kids. So nothing to do with guitars or anything. Just so we became quite friendly because of that, and consequently, we just sort of stayed in touch. And roll forward a few years. What ends up happening is Mikey wanted to do a signature pedal, or initially, and then he just decided he didn't. It wasn't the signature thing he wanted. He wanted to do something more, and he came to me for advice. He liked what we were doing, liked the ethos, all the rest of it. And whilst we were talking this through, it just became really clear that Mike had some great ideas, some great design ideas and all the rest of it. But what he lacked is what we can provide, the sort of manufacturing and all the rest of it. Because what we're doing is essentially what he wanted to achieve. And so because of that, we just went into business together. And Redbeard Effects was created. And we're 2 pedals down range already. They look great. They sound bonkers, and they're different to what Thorpe is doing. So I guess that's the key thing.
I guess that's a really nice little way for you to take a sideways step somewhere else, and with that whole advantage of it being a under a different brand banner. So it gives you a lot more free rein to develop something in a slightly different way.
Yeah, and I think. The thing is, my musical tastes are very separate to what my brand ThorpyFX is doing. I listen to the heavier side of rock, heavy metal. There's so many labels for it, but essentially, I'm really into heavy music because for me, music has to move me. If I'm not moved by it, I will not listen to it. So it could be anything that's got a really good beat, really good melody, but it has. For instance, I can't really get on board with indie music because I've got no relationship to it whatsoever. I just don't want to listen to it. So, but I absolutely get where other people love it, and would shudder to listen to the music I listen to. I like Motley Crue, I like Slipknot, I like Guns N' Roses. I love all of the heavier side of things. Lamb of God, you name it. Back on track. This gives me an avenue to do some of the crazier and heavier things that my core line, which is not polarizing in what it does, might not be able to release.
Yeah. So you got new products for both companies being sort of like developed at the moment?
We've got another one for Redbeard at the moment. I'm working on several for ThorpyFX. So it's
when do you get the time?
It's a good question. I mean, I think one of the things that people don't quite understand about me is how manic I am. I can't sit still. I can't do nothing. If I'm not working or doing something, I'm supremely bored and unhappy. And so I'd just fill my day. If there was 48 hours in the day, I'd love it. If I only needed an hour's sleep, it'd be amazing. I could be so much more productive. But there isn't. And so I just, we work quite hard. Both me and my wife, we're up, we're out. I mean, usually I'm working till 11 at night. So every day's like that.
Wow. The joys of being self-employed.
Yeah. I say that not to...
No, I'm the same. I mean, a bit weird at the moment because the show's kind of almost on hold until we know what's going on. But I regularly pull like 15, 16-hour days when it's kind of like from Christmas onwards to the show. And I don't regret a single second of it. I love what I do, so it doesn't bother me at all.
And then, of course, I come along and suggest a podcast to somebody who doesn't want to podcast, who's now getting addicted to it, which doesn't help.
There was a missing hour in the day that I needed to fill with something.
Missing hour.
Do you know what's good about the podcasts? I listen to them while I solder a lot of the time, or I'm doing development work. The reason I like them is because you can always learn something. Learn something from different people. Like some of the podcasts I listen to have some weird people in it that you wouldn't necessarily socialise with day to day, but you get to hear about their life experiences and what they've gone through and all the rest of it. And it's generally on topics that I'm interested in, like science and engineering and stuff like that. And so this is awesome. A similar sketch.
Well, I think I've always had a view on podcasts that it's probably the only form of media now which doesn't have to be disruptive. It doesn't have to scream and shout. People actually are prepared to engage with a podcast for 30, 40, 50 minutes and want to have a long listen. They want it to be nuanced. They want it to be detailed. It's actually that point in the day when you actually engage with something that isn't, because YouTube's got to the stage now where people are switching off YouTube or making a decision on a YouTube video in in under 5 seconds, and yet podcast hasn't got to that stage. People are there's and I think it's you take comfort in audio only. I think it's that whole thing of the radio, of painting picture with words and all that kind of thing. And I think there's still a lot of comfort that people take from that kind of stuff, in the same way they still enjoy audiobooks. So for me, the great thing about doing this, and I don't think it really matters on the subject, but it's, as we talked a little bit about before we started, this is about the people behind the companies and behind the bands and behind, and you can actually talk to the person, which I think to me is always going to be more engaging. So with what we are doing in these kind of lockdown episodes is we've put together a quick fire round, which for some reason I seem to be introducing every time, but then realising that I actually haven't got the questions.
No, I've got the questions. They're here.
They're there. So
do you have the answers?
So it's a kind of quick fire thing, but it's
I'm going to fail it.
Well. I mean, there's no pressure, but so far we've asked Glenn Matlock of the Sex Pistols and various other bands. We've asked Earl Slick, David Bowie's guitarist, and again player with a lot of other bands. Simon Bartholomew from Brand New Heavy. So no pressure. Earl Slick's answers were fairly amazing, but again, no pressure
and very quick.
That's right. You need another end of the scale, so it's all to bring balance.
Glenn's answers were. It's a quick fire round, Glenn. Okay, it took about half an hour.
It did.
All right.
So, okay.
My speed will please you.
So, the first question: what thing in your career are you most proud of?
Getting my MBE from the Queen.
That's a good answer, isn't it? You've already nailed that one.
Yeah, it was. When you have those moments in life that sort of like choke you up. That was one. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. So, second question: which 3 people would you like to have dinner with?
Family aside, yeah.
Yeah. Live or dead?
Yeah.
Neil Armstrong, Robert J. Oppenheimer, and probably, it's difficult. The last one. I'll come back to the last one.
All right.
You got two for now.
All right.
Which piece of gear do you wish you'd never sold?
You see, my Cornford amplifier, MK50, MK2. I had a 2x12 and the head, and it was the most glorious sounding amp ever in Oxblood. I bought it off the back of a review because Guitarist magazine said this is the best amplifier that ever existed. I was like, that's good enough for me. I'll give it a go. And then, so I sold it because I was going for a divorce and I couldn't have a 2x12 in a one bed bed sit because that would be ludicrous. I mean, it wasn't much better. I bought a combo and it was a Mesa Boogie Mark 5. But in my mind, it was a combo, right? So and it had a 10 watt mode, so all was well. So I regret selling the Cornford, but fortuitously, I managed to find a mint one this year, and I got it. And it's do you know when you're like, oh yes, that was the best thing that I ever heard.
I always thought
incredible.
That Cornford were kind of the start of the boutique market, weren't they? I mean, Paul used to do the guitar, music live with me 20 years ago, sort of thing.
Yeah,
and he brought along Richie Kotzen, Guthrie,
yeah,
and so on. I mean, it was everywhere for a couple of years.
Because it's incredible stuff. I mean, like, obviously the brand doesn't exist, but Martin Kidd's a legend anyway, the designer.
Yeah, he's Victory now, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And he's cool to chat to aneway. Actually, I had a problem the other day with the Cornford, and I thought, who do I... Oh, yeah, I know Martin Kidd. So I messaged him. And he was really helpful. And he said, yeah, this time there was this issue, because I was having a slight issue with it, just because of its age. That's all it is. And he was like, yeah, just need to do this. I was like, all right, wicked. Thanks so much. Just look in this area. So he was really helpful. So that was kind of cool. So, yeah, long-winded, circular answer, but Cornford. But I bought it again. So, and it's so good. It's so good. So, yeah, there you go.
Cool. What's the best gig you've ever been to?
I've got two, really.
We'll let you have two.
All right. So from a personal perspective, taking my son to his first ever gig, and you know what, I've got to thank Mikey for this, because he said, would you like to bring Fraser to come see Skindred? I'm like, yeah, because my son Fraser, he loves heavier music. He's learning guitar.
How old is he?
I was like, he's 11, nearly 12. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That'd be amazing. Thank you. Anyway, so the gig is Disturbed at Ali Pali. And your guest listed. And you can come and hang out in the green rooms, chill. And because Fraz is only 11, he was 11 at the time. Yeah, 10 or 11. I can't remember at the time. We'll sit you in front of house.
Right.
So rest of the crowd's moshing away and having doing the Newport helicopter, which was just astonishing. And then, my son's just stood on the barrier in front of house so he can see everything. And I'm stood behind him, and he's there swinging his jumper around, he's just getting into it. And I could just, there's this moment where I could see his brain just go, this is incredible. And that, that's all down to Mikey, really. And I've got a photo of that moment as well, of just him just transfixed, just the stage in front of him. It's his silhouette. It's one of my favourite photos that I've managed to take. And so that gig, from a personal perspective, is my favourite gig because it means so much to me and my family. On the flip side of things, seeing Rammstein at Milton Keynes Bowl last year. Was it last year?
Yeah, it was last July, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was unfucking believable. I have never witnessed anything like that before in my life. From a sheer, Slipknot are up there and are amazing, but Rammstein are just on this level, which is I can't really explain it. Apart from this, it all. I don't know if you've seen them on this latest tour or seen pictures from this latest tour. It takes about a week to put up their rig, and it comes in on these massive trucks, and they bring their own power supplies and everything because it is a huge undertaking. It's, aside from being the loudest gig I've ever been at, from a just perfectly mixed music perspective, it is. It was also the loudest for this reason. Like they come in, the drums are going, and you're like, they're all starting to come out on stage, and the drummer's on stage doing his thing, and then there is this, just a massive explosion. And like, as someone who knows explosives, I've got master's degrees in the subject. I'll tell you this, right? They are on the fucking limit. That is the loudest thing that I have heard outside of detonation. So you could feel the shockwave from it. And I wasn't at the front in the foyer pit, as they call it. I was up on the side, and it happened. I was like, I felt like I was back in the army. I got this rush of just like, boom, boom. Oh yes, that was incredible. And so that kicked it all off, and then the gig was just astonishing across the board. The music, the theatre, the flames, the explosion, the light, the smoke, the confetti, the giant steel cock. It was all there. It was absolutely fucking amazing. And I'm supposed to see him in Coventry again, but it's like cancelled. So I think it's going to get cancelled.
It's going to get cancelled, isn't it?
Yeah. So never mind.
Oh well, they'll be back.
Yeah, so favourite gigs is 2. Music and theatre is Rammstein. Personal reasons, Skindred and Disturbed.
Cool.
There you go.
So, last question. What's the first thing you're going to do post-lockdown?
I'm going to hit the gym. I say I'm going to hit the gym. I've just ordered 500 kilos of weights, and that's just arrived. And I'm building a home gym at the moment. I got so pissed off with not being able to lift, so I've got enough to deadlift now. I'm not 500 kilos, obviously. I still lift a lot, but it's not 500 kilos. I've got the rack coming and all the rest of it. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is going down the gym. I'm going to smash it up and just destroy myself. For funds, but I still owe you. Who would I like to meet?
You're always a dinner guest.
Yeah.
Maybe something. Looking at the 2 you've got, maybe something a bit lighter.
Yeah. Well, you say that Neil Armstrong's a pretty killer, and I've also apparently a very funny guy. But he's as an engineer, he's and just an all round top drawer man. I'd love to sit down and chat with him, but obviously. Robert J. Oppenheimer, that would be a dark conversation. But I've got a quote of his on one of my tattoos, so that's probably where that comes from. And yeah, third, oh blimey, probably James Cameron or somewhere like that. Terminator director, I think. Just if we're going for lighter. Yeah, well, because he's into deep sea diving, and he's got the record for going to the depths of the ocean. That'd be kind of cool.
Right. Cool. I think our definitions of light are slightly different, but that's fine.
Oh, do we have to like funny and like?
Well, no. I think your list is great. I just, I think I would have had Victoria Wood in mind, but that probably talks more about me than it does about you.
I don't know. So I used to do quite a lot of dinner parties when you're in the army, called mess functions.
Yeah.
And they were always great in that you can learn about people that you didn't know, and you chat and have conversations with all sorts of people, from politicians, royals, you name it, whatever, at these functions. And the ones I always enjoyed most were the ones where I was like raptured by either what they did for a living or what their life experiences are, or where I can learn something. Not everyone has pearls of wisdom to pass on, I guess, but if you can, you choose your guests.
Yeah,
you can gain that.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great list. Well, cool. Well, listen, that's been really lovely. Thank you for your time. It's actually I've been watching the window in the background in your office, and we've taken you from early evening to darkness. So apologies for that.
Sorry, I ran. I probably just ran.
No. It was really cool. So no, thanks very much for your time. I don't know if you've got any more questions, Jace. I'm fairly spent.
I'm done.
Yeah, cool. Well, it's been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll see you again at the show next year. But I mean, when we are free to roam about the country again, we'd love to come and see you. Actually, so
that'd be amazing. Well, I've got a question for both of you guys.
Go on then.
All right. It's really highbrow, so forgive me. Would you rather have balls for toes or dicks for fingers?
Dicks for
they're
fingers.
Fully functional dicks as well.
Yeah, so. Dicks for fingers.
I think it's going to have to be dicks for fingers. It's got to be, yeah.
I wouldn't want to put my whole body weight on my toes.
There's a whole balance thing going on there. Yeah.
Also, do you get like 2 in each toe? So you end up with like 10 little testicles on your feet, each foot. Who knows?
I don't know, but it sounds painful.
I told you it was highbrow. Sorry.
Is that not one of the Star Wars characters? I'm sure in the original, in the cantina in the original, there's one with
what's the
one? Oh, the Balchinian. The guy who had like balls. Yeah.
What's that from? The Balchinian.
It's from Men in Black.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
They actually just called the alien the Balchinian.
Oh dear.
Yeah, then they do that boxing thing on his face, don't they?
Yeah, that's it.
Are you a Star Wars fan then?
Do you know what? I watch the films, but it depends. When everyone says, "Are you a Star Wars fan?" what you're thinking is like full on nerdy, like dressing up, got myself a lightsaber. No, I just like to watch things. I like sci-fi. I like the films, and I can appreciate that other people get really into it, but for me, it's an inert thing, so I'm not that bothered. I watch the film; it's good, great.
How old are you?
I'm like that. Go
on. Me,
yeah.
I'm 38.
Yeah, you see, I saw Star Wars at the cinema first time round in 70. Well, it will have been 78, I think. I don't think it arrived here until 78 because at that point in time they didn't sync and they weren't all playing in the same place. So it launched in 77 in the US, but I think it was 78 before it got over here. But I saw it at the cinema the first time round. And for anybody of my era to see that I think that's why there's so many men in their sort of late 40s, early 50s that are just addicted because it was like nothing we'd ever seen before.
Oh, it was. I mean, because I saw it at the cinema, but at the same token, I don't get upset by the new ones not being as good because I'm not 8 anymore.
So
I think we might be about to have a fallout in our first podcast fallout, Jace.
I'm scarred by Star Wars though. Like as a kid, an older kid. So I was born in 81. So was it Empire Strikes Back?
Empire Strikes Back 80, yeah.
Right. So my mum and dad said, "Oh, you're a product of the Empire Strikes Back." I was like, "Well, that doesn't sound good." And so apparently they had date night. I went to watch the Empire Strikes Back, and then 9 months later, here I am.
Wow!
I was like, brilliant. That's ruined that film for me. Thanks ever so much.
Wow.
If it had been Return of the Jedi, I could have probably gone with that. But there's nothing in Empire Strikes Back that strikes me as remotely arousing.
No, it's dark. It's really.
That's why I'm a miserable git.
Yeah. You weren't going to say git there, were you?
No. Look at that. That's progress, that is. I've sort of rolled it back.
Yeah. Well done. I tell you, you're all right. We've got an E against our podcast name. You're fine. You can say what you like.
Well, you did tell me.
Yeah,
yes,
you
I
can.
Was like, oh, brilliant.
You could have gone there. It's fine with me.
Some people get upset by that word. Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Right, well, we'll end on that then, shall we? On that particular bombshell. Should we call it a night?
Yes, I think we should.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, Adrian. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
mate.
And we're back. And what a lovely interview that is. I'd forgotten, actually, because it's 5 weeks ago. I'd forgotten exactly what an interesting evening's chat we had. But, yeah, what a nice guy.
Yeah. Well, not many people want to bring Oppenheimer to dinner, but, Thorpe does.
No. Good man. Well, and obviously he'll be back. So, which actually brings me to a question. Actually, Where are we with Guitar Show for next year?
Well, so I'm currently not working on it because I don't really see the point. Because we don't know where we're going to be. It's probably about 75% sold for next year. Yeah. On the dates of 27th to 28th of Feb. I'm kind of waiting to see what the government says really about, gatherings of people. I've got plans in my head for, if it goes ahead in February, that I could extend the opening hours and have, half the people that come on a Saturday in on the first bit, half that come on the second bit, but that's not a decision I can make on my own. I have to have exhibitors that are willing to do that as well.
And probably artists, to be fair, because you'd kind of be asking an artist to double up on a day, wouldn't you? So that
potentially, or
people don't lose out.
Yeah, do I end up having? So normally I have like 6 artists on. Do I book 3 and they do twice as much?
Yeah,
but to half as many. Are we going to be in this situation where the artists are willing to do it because they've not been able to do anything, or do I just postpone it a couple of months? I've got a certain amount of flexibility with the venue that I could push it back a couple of months. If I think we just need to wait and see whether there's a second wave or not. Whether half the scientists say there's a second peak coming, it's going to be worse than the first. And then the other half of scientists seem to be going, no, this is like SARS. It's going to burn itself out. It could be gone within 6 months. We just don't know.
We just don't know.
So I'm trying to run through all the scenarios in my head, and I think the most sensible thing to do at the moment is not to, put anything in stone. The artwork's up for the show for 2021, but it has no date on it at the moment because I feel it would be foolish. To do so. The weird thing is, weird? No, I don't know. The great thing is that I've got an inbox full of emails of people who've not done the show before that want to do the show, and some of them are, they're not UK based. One of them's from the States, one of them's from Belgium, stuff like that. That want to come over and do the show. So they've just got emails that says, yes, you can do it. I'll get back to you on a date, and everybody at the moment is quite understanding of that sort of situation. So, fingers crossed, it's 27th to 28th of Feb 2021. Next best thing is it's kind of April, May 2021. The worst case scenario is that, it doesn't happen next year, but that's outside of my control. My plan is that it does happen next year.
A lot of life would have got nowhere near back to normal if by May we can't do the guitar show. That's a big thing. I don't think people are thinking that far ahead. We'll still be at this level of restriction on what daily activity is. But I think the interesting thing, I'm really pleased to hear you say, well, I'm kind of 99% that we're doing a show. Yeah. It might have to move a bit. We might have to slightly move the format, but we're going to find a way to make it work. And I think you'll get the support of artists. I think, I agree. I think you might end up working with half the number of artists who come and and have to perform, put in a shift twice. But I think a lot of them would be happy to do that. So I think you'll have something. I'm certainly looking forward to being there. So
it's odd. I get messages via social media all the time because I once a month I kind of set all my social media up and running for the month sort of thing, and I like to post every day. Generally, they're stupid memes. I'd say generally.
They generally are.
Generally are. 6 days out of 7 are stupid mean, and the 7th is on a Monday that says who the new podcast sort of guest star is. It's hard work trying to find 6 different memes a week, every week. But I was going through my phone this morning, because whenever I find one, I save it on my phone, and I'd found another like 20 that I've downloaded this morning. Where was I going with this? Social. Oh yeah, people. I still get messages off visitors to the show that just they're so nice. And I was talking to Jordan, who does PR for the show earlier, and I was saying, I'd had a really nice message off someone this week, and he said, "You got to remember, mate." He said, this is people's passions and hobbies. He said they don't get to talk to Marshall like you do, and so on. So they really appreciate what I do, and and sometimes I think when you've worked in the industry for a long time, I'm sure it's the same across any industry, you kind of take it for granted occasionally, and sometimes it's nice to kind of stop and kind of go, oh yeah, this is pretty cool, right?
Do you know what? I wholeheartedly agree, because I think it's easy for those of us who've been involved for a lot of years to forget how close we are to it and the magic of it. And if anything, those of us who've worked in the music industry and the instrument industry for a long time, the only ever thing we do is bemoan the fact that we stopped playing the guitar, because when you're working it all day, every day, the last thing you want to do when you finish is pick a guitar up. And actually, if that's the worst part of it, then we probably ought to shut up and stop feeling sorry for ourselves. But anyway, one last question.
Yeah.
Who we got next week?
So next week is Mikey Demas from Skindred.
It is indeed Mikey Demas.
You interviewed him at the guitar show, but it was short. It was in the shithole cupboard.
It was in the cat litter room. Yeah,
and Mikey was on his own, manning his stand.
Yeah,
so he could only give us about 10 minutes. And when we listened back to it, it was kind of like, this is really good. It's just not long enough, and we could have asked him a whole lot more. So spoke to Mikey, and he was well up for doing it again. Let's scrap that one and just start afresh. And I can be in on it as well, because at the time I was running the show and you doing the interviews. But actually, we can have a 3-way again.
Another 3-way,
yeah.
Yes. And unlike where we've been for a little while, we haven't recorded it yet.
No, this is quite exciting. We're back into recording mode.
Yeah, we're in the moment.
I've got a list of others that I won't say, but actually there's some good names of people that are interested in doing it. So it won't be drying up anytime soon.
Have you got anybody from Hawkeye on?
Hawkeye?
Yeah, the people who do the goal line technology.
No.
All right, okay. Damn.
Yeah, was the guitar behind the line?
Right, mate. I'll see you again next week to interview Mikey, and obviously then to record the other bits to go with the podcast. So take care of yourself. Have a good week.
And you, mate. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Yeah, take care. Bye. Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.